Guys, my father always taught me that when a bald man speaks about MMOs, you listen. And today, oh, we're gonna have a banger of a video because we have an hour-long video of one dude ranting about World of Warcraft masculinity problem. Something that I had quarreled with in the past, I think like 6 months or so on this very channel. And oh my, I mean, it has been such a huge problem. I really wish Blizzard would fix it, but since the game management is so infested with wine moms and labubu millennials, I don't think we're gonna see a good change anytime soon. But one can only hope, right?
This is World of Warcraft's latest housing cinematic. Seems rather inoffensive. It shows off the Horde Razorwind Hills neighborhood, filled to the brim with references. But why are so many people online seemingly hostile to this?
I hated that.
Hello, everybody. It's your boy J-Malls, and I've been a fan of World of Warcraft since the third expansion, Cataclysm, releasing back in 2010. It's been a game in a world I've lived in for most of my life, and I love it so much. But I also believe the game, over the last long while, has strayed from its roots that grabbed people so tightly all those years ago, to the detriment of not only the story, but also the world. Quite simply,
power
WoW
of
has
friendship.
a dude problem, a guy problem. It has distanced itself so severely from the overt masculine themes and depictions that drew the eyes and the ears for so long. Let's
trailer
explore
was so
modern
good.
World of Warcraft's aversion to what made it popular to begin with. And believe me, we have a lot to talk about.
Confront a force beyond reckoning.
To set the stage of our discussion,
Look at
I
him.
want to address the spark that lighted this conversation. On January 29th, 2026, Blizzard held a State of Azeroth, going over the 2026 roadmaps for both the classic and retail versions of World of Warcraft, bespeckled with hints of the future and new features coming later this year. Then, like a Marvel movie, right when you think it's over, they had one last thing to bring out from behind the curtain. A new animated cinematic for the recently released housing feature, showing a Blood Elf rogue defeating some enemies and then walking through a star-studded Razorwind Shores neighborhood before finally resting at home. A cozy,
Yikes.
high contrast, saturated cinematic, perfectly in line for the vibe housing is supposed to give off. So what's the problem?
The problem is that it's not vibe with the World of Warcraft. What the foundation of Warcraft? Okay, that's the main issue. I had so many people in my comments whenever I watched this video for the first time and reacted to it very negatively. People have told me, "Oh, it's just a housing trailer. Like, who cares? It's just for the housing, brother." Then make it cool. Why do you make it so cringe and toddlified? Why do you have to take the most masculine orcs out there and like make them so like listen, I don't have problem with them being dumb. They're peons, obviously. But why do you make them so childish? It's cringe. Man, they can be dumb as rocks but still manly as hell. I mean, isn't that kind of a thing World of Warcraft was known for? Like, what are we even on about? They could have made this trailer 10 times cooler, and they chose to Disneyfy it. That's the problem I had with it.
Certainly,
It's not about the
cinematic
housing.
itself is rather harmless. It doesn't ruin any beloved characters, doesn't retcon some established lore, though, who knows? Maybe we haven't looked hard enough. Sure, maybe releasing a full cinematic for something that is already out at a time slot in a live stream that people expect something new, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best idea. But this sentiment really feels like it's coming from somewhere else, because it is. You see, it's largely just another example in a trend that is continuing for this game for over a decade at this point. There's this reliance on overly goofy, quirky millennial humor that was once kind of charming with characters.
Guys, we need the TikTok dance inside of our war and conflict MMORPG. We need that, okay? It's necessary. Everyone loves that. Trust me, the Karen on top.
Characters like Tracer from Overwatch
What are you looking at?
when that game was first coming onto the scene, but just has simply grown stale and repetitive, especially when the series this trope is in just isn't known for characters like this. Is there anything wrong with caramel? No, absolutely not.
Nope.
It's sugary sweet and delicious, and when applied to the correct substances can be an absolute delight. But
Absolutely. Absolutely, finally. I'm glad you said that. That is true. People are like, oh, you're against this. No. Like, don't get me wrong. I love some Disney movies. Like, they're great. They're awesome. But it's all a matter of when and where. It's not for everyone and it's not for everything. Okay? You need to understand that. I loved Overwatch for being Overwatch. I love the cinematics. Were they Disneyfied? Sure, but that was the premise. The game was built on that very foundation. I don't come to Overwatch expecting to see like, blood and explosion and all that stuff and people clashing fists and swords. No, that's not what I come there for. I already know what I subscribe to. So when I come to World of Warcraft and I expect to see certain things and I instead see the complete opposite, that's where I have the problem. That's where the issues lie. So it's not me hating on a certain thing. It's just me hating the fact that it's being misplaced.
I wouldn't want it draped over my steak, now would I? I imagine some people may want that, but to consider it a fitting topping for such a medium because a few exceptions exist feels more separated from the hearts and minds of steak enjoyers. That type of character, a bubbly and colorful personality, fits right into something like Overwatch, which back when that game was first coming out, because the setting was also bubbly and full of more cartoony characters, because it felt like a Pixar movie made into a thrilling game universe, and yeah, it didn't go that way, but that's what I'm talking about. Tracer was so beloved because she fit the tone and feel of Overwatch's new world. She became an instant fan favorite because the character and world meshed together perfectly. She was the face alongside Banana Slammer. Try and lift that character, make him an elf, and plop them in a WoW trailer and acting like it belongs just doesn't work. It's putting caramel that was once on a bowl of delicious vanilla ice cream with various toppings and dropping it on a hunk of grilled meat. These flavors just don't work together.
And also you changed existing things inside of the game because Blood Elves don't look like this. Okay, they don't. Oh, Jesus, wait, no shade, brother. Okay, but Blood Elves don't look like this. They don't. Okay, go watch the original TBC trailer. That's how they're supposed to look like. And she does look good. She does look good. It's not that she look ugly. It's just not really fitting with the aesthetic of World of Warcraft. You feel what I'm saying? She looks fine. Like, I have no problem with the way that she looks. It doesn't fit. It fits Overwatch. It doesn't fit World of Warcraft.
Dropping it on a hunk of grilled meat. These flavors just don't work together. These textures clash. They don't work. They contrast with each other instead of complementing each other. Or worst of all, instead of giving me the steak that I ordered, that I went into the steak shop expecting, you are giving me a bowl of ice cream in steak shape and color and plopping the caramel on top. Nothing about this looks appetizing. Nothing about this is something that I wanted from this place. I didn't order the ice cream. I ordered the steak. I came to the steak restaurant looking for steak. Don't get upset when people get upset over that. Now, WoW has always been cartoony. It's never been some grim dark universe where joy and whimsy are left bleeding and rotting in a dingy alley. But
he didn't do the leveling in Darkshire? I'm surprised. He's actually saying that. Okay, that's interesting.
It's always used really cool and awesome elements to drive home the world, the characters, and also to fuel excitement. In almost every way, WoW appealed to exactly what young boys like. Big heroes and villains that feel larger than life, doing really cool things in a world that always is at war in some shape or form. Sure, the story isn't always as simple as that and can explore different stories, but that was always at the forefront of the games. Cool guys doing cool guy things. Some may be evil, some may be heroes. Some may be heroes who turn into evil guys, and some may be evil guys who become heroes. That was Warcraft. Grom Hellscream sacrificing himself to free the orcs from the blood curse of the demon Manaroth, whose blood Grom himself drank in pursuit of power years ago. That was powerful. It was memorable and awesome. Arthas, the Lich King, the former prince of the human kingdom of Lordaeron,
who did nothing wrong. Yeah, I agree 100%, man. He had a difficult decision and he made it. I love him. Such a fantastic character. Absolutely did nothing wrong, extremely based.
Ever maddening quest for vengeance against the demon Mal'Ganis forsook everything he once stood for and loved in pursuit of a power that fully corrupts him and turns him into one of the greatest bestowers of pain and suffering the universe had ever known, the Lich King. A beloved character from Warcraft 3 who said awesome things, looked awesome, especially in his return with the Wrath of the Lich King cinematic. He didn't even need to say a word. We just saw the dude aura farm while the ghost of his father gave a speech. And all the while Arthur stood there, as I said, aura farming, rallying his undead armies.
Absolutely.
And you understood that this was who you were facing.
And the trailer was so captivating without having like that crazy cinematics. Obviously the cinematics were insane, right? Especially for the time, but without having like flashy action movement and all that stuff, simply because he was aura farming that hard. It was crazy because every single thing his father said inside of that speech, Arthas did the opposite. And it was so amazing to watch that contradiction happens in front of you, right? Like, strength lies within the heart of your people, something like that, he said. And then you watch an army of undead soldiers who obviously, like, have no hearts. It's so good. Oh, man. I really want to watch this trailer again now.
Intrigued, you were
It was so
fascinated,
good.
you wanted to find out more.
The truest victory, my son, is stirring the heart.
Oh, wait, he's actually showing the exact same thing.
Now, since I know most of the people that have either played World of Warcraft or still play World of Warcraft are over the age of 25, you may be going, J-Malls, what even is aura? Well, aura is a term thrown around a lot online nowadays, and it basically means...
Guys, I recently learned what mugging is. Okay? People are using it a lot nowadays. I have to keep myself updated with the times. It's kind of cringe, but it's part of the process. It is what it is. But... God, man, these terms are getting a little bit ridiculous.
being really cool. Arthas has aura. When you look at him, he has this presence, this swagger about him that draws the entire scene and all eyes to him, whatever he is doing and whenever he is present. Illidan Stormrage, brother to the greatest druid
Arthas mugged Illidan in Warcraft. God.
Malfurion, locked away for 10,000 years during his pursuit of greater power, harnessing the same magical energies as the demons in a quest to use their very power against them. He who threw down with Arthas at the foot of Ice Crown Citadel,
Dude,
at the
it's
top
crazy.
of the world in the frozen wastes of Northrend, who in the cinematic for the first expansion, the Burning Crusade, told you, the player, there's a certain coolness that irradiates from these characters and in these scenes and in these cinematics that is simply untouchable. And Illidan returns to join our side when the threat of the demonic Burning Legion reaches a fever pitch in the expansion Legion, who willingly becomes the jailer for the evilest entity, not that jailer, who becomes the jailer for the evilest entity in the verse, Sargeras, and sacrifices himself to keep him away from the world that once shunned and rejected him, but a world he called home nonetheless. Varrock Sarfang, a grizzled old war hero of the Horde, who now under the leadership of then War Chief Sylvanas Windrunner, questions his loyalties, his own honor, as the actions of the people he calls family and home seemingly revert to their more evil, brutal roots. I mean, come on, who needed that tree anyways? Look, we can just put an orc moth there. Much better on the eyes. Sarfang lost his son to the very Arthas we just talked about, and now is seemingly losing everything he ever fought for as it decays and rots around him. And it even got to the point where he was willing to walk into certain death to simply escape all of this and try and find honor in a soldier's death before being talked down by a young upstart who idolizes Sarfang himself. Yeah, remember Zappy Boy? Sarfang, who relearns what it means to be Horde, what it means to be a hero, and what it means to be good and standing up for what you believe in. And it all culminates with him challenging Sylvanas to a 1v1 Mak'gora to
and losing humiliated to a Yas Slay Queen that is clearly a Mary Sue character that some millennial weirdo wrote because they lived their entire life in how do you say that? A gated community that is sheltered from the outside world. And they had no real experience. They wanted to play a hero. They wanted to feel like they had adversities and difficulties in their lives, so they expressed everything through World of Warcraft scripts. And we had to gobble that shit up. Okay? Yeah, it's completely ass. The death of Sourfang was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life, and it was so humiliating to a hero that I once loved. It's so cringe. It is literally so cringe.
Prevent a
It's even worse than what she did to Bolvar, in my opinion. Because at least Bolvar lived. Or, you know what? Now that I think about it, maybe it's worse.
bloody civil war that would result in the deaths of so many people he cared about, who was then put down by Sylvanas Windrunner after bridging the gap between
Using magic in a monk or Puh. Shame on her. Who wrote that? My god, it's so lame. Like, you are all nothing. She's throwing a tantrum, bro. I still remember. That crap echoes within my head. It's,
between the
help
Horde and
me
the
God.
Alliance, who then flees the
That's
scene
so
like Team
bad.
Rocket. Well, surely they have someone else lined up to continue this awesome legacy and further the characterization they
The
just
Jailer.
spent the whole expansion on. No one? Really, no one. What about Zappy Boy? Oh, they never really used him after this point, huh? I guess Anduin, though. We'll get to him. But before we do, let's take a detour to one of the most popular examples that gets thrown out there when people talk about World of Warcraft no longer being cool or appealing to male preferences. Times may change, but the Warlords of Draenor cinematic will always be awesome.
Yeah.
And here's why.
And what? Gul'dan.
Oh, God. Oh, it's so good.
In return,
Everything.
everything.
Now, what itself is one of
Guys, if you watch this, you literally grow a beard, okay? That's how I did it, okay? Like, literally, that's how. I just watched it a couple of times and it just grew. It's fantastic. You literally feel your testosterone levels rising as you're watching this trailer. It was that fantastic.
the worst expansions Blizzard ever put out, but it
True.
wasn't for the vibes that the expansion had. It was just a barren wasteland of content. The premise of it was a bit weird, to be sure, going to an alternate version of Draenor where former now disgraced war chief of the Horde, Garrosh Hellscream, son of aforementioned Grom Hellscream, recruits alternate universe versions of the most famous orcs in Warcraft lore to take them down a different path. Instead of giving in and drinking deep of the blood of Manaroth, they rely on brutal industrialization that Garrosh introduces alongside the numbers the orcs had and their sheer capacity and aptitude for war and awesomeness to invade Azeroth and take it over for the true Horde. It's a giant what-if story come to life where brawn and muscle and sheer testosterone is advanced by numerous technological brackets. How would we deal with that? Well, while the story itself turned out to be crappy after the .0 launch because they felt the need to cut it short to move on to Legion, oh god. This premise is looked back at so fondly because it's the exact vibe and aesthetic modern WoW has been missing for years. Just a bunch of great, muscle-bound, awesome-looking warriors doing adrenaline-pumping things with interesting themes woven throughout the narrative. Was conquest and brutality always the destiny awaiting the savage orcs? Were they always doomed to do whatever they had to achieve greater power? Or could they once again break free from the path they were walking and find another? And all the while, it's told through awesome, muscle-bound badasses doing awesome, badass things, like in the cinematic, where Grom Hellscream rejects the demon blood and strikes down the very demon that once aided the orcs in dooming themselves in a scene that mirrors Grom's sacrifice from Warcraft 3, but instead of succumbing to Fellfire, his son from another world saves him at the last second. Their
So
destiny would be different because
Times change.
sheer awesomeness.
Yep.
Lifting his axe in the air, Grom yells out,
We will never be slain.
Oh,
But we will be
true.
conquerors.
Conquerors of the Garrison. True.
if this cinematic doesn't get you hyped, nothing else in Warcraft ever would. It's just that good. A great story premise, really interesting themes, interesting characters, all the while they're doing really cool things.
Absolutely. And you can even see a great indicator for that with, I don't know how to access it. Like, you can Google it up, where the interest rate for each expansion was. You see a graph from vanilla all the way until the Lich King. thing. Cataclysm, a slight drop, I think, and Mist of Pandaria like a sharp drop. Warlords of Draenor picked right back up again, and you know why? Because Disneyfied Mist of Pandaria trailer turned a lot of people away from the game. It's a fact. It is what it is.
That's a great hook right there.
Yikes. What
That
is
one
that?
cinematic is a blueprint how to appeal to guys. And I don't know what it is with Blizzard.
Oh man, why did they had to turn the dragons into such a limp weirdos? It's so disgusting to look at them, man. It's so off-putting. Who would want to play with that? Ooh, the power of friendship through the like, God, oh my God, man, they're beyond saving.
But they have this weird desire not to appeal to the core demographic they got popular from. Now, this
Of course, because all they do is pander to modern audience which doesn't even play their game. Because all that Blizzard wants to do is virtue signal and be seen as a savior or a hero of the week. That's all they care about. Now, I don't know why, because clearly it's not financially beneficial for them. Obviously, if they made World of Warcraft great again, more people would have played that and more people would have subscribed again, but for some reason they chose not to. So I guess this one is beyond me, but at the same time, yeah, it's just so cringe to see. Because these type of people would never play the game. Never. They would only say, hey, we love what you're doing and we support you, but when push come to shove, they would never purchase the game. Even if the game is on the brink of extinction, they would literally not pay a dime for you.
isn't just
do
a
not
Blizzard
care.
issue, it's an industry-wide epidemic. But I want to focus on Blizzard for today. Look, people can and should like what they like. Absolutely. But there are reasons that some things appeal to some people more than others. There are reasons that target demographics exist. The way World of Warcraft used to carry itself, it was clearly trying to target young guys
Yep.
and people who loved fantastical worlds and stories. It always tried to somewhat appeal to a bunch of different aesthetic tastes, and that's part of what gave Warcraft its unique charm. If you liked more pretty stuff, you had elves and humans. Did you have a Viking obsession? Dwarves are right there. Do you prefer the
Come on, man. You cannot claim the dwarfs aren't handsome. You know Magni is the most beautiful man out there.
wacky and more silly? Then
Pause.
you have gnomes and goblins. Do you listen
gnome.
exclusively to death and black metal? Well, the undead are right there. Did you like muscly stuff and
Yes.
badassery? Orcs,
Yes.
trolls, Tauren, right there. But, and this
Bro, don't put like cow people inside of like the orcs and trolls basket, okay? Like these two races are the only ones that I play pretty much because exclusively what he just said. They're based and they're giga chads, okay? They're awesome, man. Like trolls just love doing shenaniganry and dance all day and just, I don't know, like slay people. But they're so cool, man. I love trolls. Like trolls are awesome. Whenever I wanted to play range, I always picked a troll, but whenever I wanted to pick melee, always an orc. And I'm an orc warrior main, you already know me, so I tend to always play an orc, but whenever I picked range, like I tried to pick a mage, I played a troll.
is a very important one. If you don't think World of Warcraft tried to primarily appeal to guys, you weren't paying attention. And that vibe, that appeal to male aspirations of heroism and adrenaline-pumping coolness just largely isn't there anymore. Sure, we can look at the new housing cinematic and say it's clearly either trying to target young kids who are more into Fortnite or Roblox or whatever. We can argue
Exactly.
that this type of trailer is trying to target more female players out there, and honestly, I don't view that to be a bad thing.
But why do you automatically assume that these trailers just target females? It's so cringe. That's what I always hated. Like, why do you assume that every single female out there want to be seen like this? Like, oh, females, okay, they want shiny, sparkly, bubbly stuff, right? That's what the female race loves. Why do you always assume that? Why you can't assume that a female really likes Tyrande, a badass night elf that rides on a panther? Like, why can't you assume that? Why do you have to assume females love those childish things? You instantly categorize them and put them inside of a box, which is so ironic because it's come from the people who always claims that we are the one putting them inside of a box. It's so cringe, man. The irony is just, it's unparalleled.
Is trying to target
They
more
always
female
assume
players
that.
out there, and honestly, I don't view that to be a bad thing. My main point comes in from moving wholly away from the vibes the series used to have and not striking a good enough
I mean, look at that. Look at that. Yes, does it appeal to male fantasy? 100%. But why wouldn't it appeal to female fantasy? Why, literally, just tell me right now in the comments, why wouldn't this appeal to any female? Like, why? It's great. I don't see it. Whenever I see a based Giga Chad orc, I want to be like that guy. Maybe minus the green part because I'm brown. But, you know, you have like fel orcs, which I guess kind of like brownish. You have the brown guys. So it is cool. I want to be like them because they're based and they're Giga Chads and they're super masculine. And that's like really cool for me. So why wouldn't a female love that? I don't understand that logic. I really don't.
Of balance with these very different aesthetics and vibes. Housing clearly is going to appeal more to a different demographic than the Wrath and WoD cinematics, obviously. And while there will be quite a few people that like both, hello there, that's me, they are clearly targeting different audiences. But when you have a game that has cultivated an audience of people that like this, and now you only provide introspective, emotionally charged stories and this,
Yes, 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 yes. Woo!
it's going to disgruntle the people that you became popular because of.
Absolutely. The tone shift is just too much to take. It's like watching a series. The first season it's perfect, and then the second season just took a completely different turn. I just bit my tongue there. See, Blizzard. It's literally Blizzard. They're sabotaging me. They don't want me to talk shit about them.
Naturally, that's just common sense. It will feel like you are trying to distance yourself from them and make the game no longer feel like the world they devoted so much time and energy towards. I don't mind trying to appeal more.
See, this is what I was talking about. Like, this is how a female blood elf should look like. Badass. Absolutely badass.
To female interests. There's no reason women can't like WoW, and a bunch have loved WoW previously.
Thank
There's
you.
nothing wrong with that. But
That's what I was saying.
Don't just abandon the male interest while
Bro, you want to play WoW? For real, badass song guy.
doing so. Balance them. You've done it before. And when you deliberately move away from these things, it either
These swords are busting you.
feels like you outright hate them, or as if you're taking them for granted, as if you already have cultivated.
Why you're tripping on my lance? Guys, come on. I love the Gen Z lingo so much. You don't even understand how much. It's just so hilarious to me. Dude, whenever I hear it, I just cannot. I literally can't. With the broccoli hair and stuff, it's beautiful. I love that.
This audience, and you believe they're going to stick around, so you can shift the entire tone of the game to try to appeal to a different audience because you don't think they're going to abandon you. And I'm not going to be
Bro,
someone.
is this like a real cinematic inside of the game? Is that a real cutscene? I think it's like fan-made or something. No way this is actually real.
One that tries to paint this,
If this is real, I'm
conversation
losing it.
as like a do or die for Warcraft. The game's not dead, and I still love the game. Heck, I also love housing, but I think the game would be even more popular, more successful, and even more beloved if they had a better balance between these different target, well, vibes that they have in the game.
True?
There's a related point here that I see talked about a lot online that I want to cover here, and that is the feminization of Warcraft overall. It seemed like a good time to talk about that, because normally when people talk about something becoming less masculine, it's because it's becoming more feminine. And I've seen people push that it both is and that it isn't. I think it somewhat is, but I don't necessarily view feminine aesthetics to be bad or out of place for Warcraft. They've been there for a while, and I would argue the peak Warcraft aesthetic is Warcraft 3. And in that game, well, it definitely has both masculine and feminine aesthetics in it. And even later on, and like, let's be fair here, Night Elf and Blood Elf aesthetics have that slant to them. It doesn't mean that if you're a guy that you can't like them. The Elvish side of Warcraft is one of my favorites, for instance. And most of my played characters nowadays are Blood Elves.
Guys, whenever you see a female Night Elf dressed the most, how do I say that? The most revealing way ever. This is not a female playing, okay? You know it's a fat ass dude behind that computer. You know that, okay? So it clearly doesn't only appeal to female.
Just look good. Warcraft has had that side to it ever since the RTS games, and I don't think they need to be excised or even minimized. Warcraft has cool elves, and there's ways to portray the elvish factions in ways that appeal to guys as well. These aren't mutually exclusive things. For instance, remember that one mission in the Orc campaign in Warcraft 3 when they first introduced the Night Elves and Cenarius led a group against Grom Hellscream?
Who dares defile this ancient land?
It's classic.
Who dares the wrath of Cenarius and the Night Elves? Let battle be joined.
Bro, this is such a fantastic game. It's crazy how good this game is.
Under attack.
Yes! Yes, 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 yes.
Why do you have to put it every single
They
time?
felt intimidating, brutal, and awesome, but they still have an aesthetic you wouldn't traditionally associate with brutal masculinity. And that's fine, because that aesthetic became a core part of Warcraft, because it was so well done, so beloved, and when you have a world known for both its more masculine and feminine aesthetics and tones, and you largely remove or soften the masculine ones, then of course the feminine stuff will be more prominent. Hence you get complaints of feminization. You can call that feminization if you really want to, and I wouldn't even really argue with you there. But I think the deeper problem is intention. It's not an active attempt to feminize Warcraft, it's the attempt and the intent to remove the masculinity
But pride in our legends, foments stromic superiority, and reasons to strike at our neighbors.
Oh wait, it's actually real?
to not come off as aggressive, glorifying violence, and showing a set of moral beliefs that aren't one for one with the real world because they are rooted in a fantastical medieval setting that has traditionally very much appealed to guys.
Father, is it over?
At long last. No king rules forever, my son.
Ah, such a great line.
Only darkness before me.
My god. How many tears were shed over this? Dude, stop. Just stop.
Yes, 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 yes.
Because too many modern
And it's so crazy, we're never gonna have another moment like this. Never. Maybe we came close in Legion, but that's pretty much it. Illidan was the last great hero we had. And that's pretty much, like, completely over now. There's no way Midnight is going to have anything way closer to it. No way.
writers and storytellers either
Like, even Lore Samar is cringe.
are or listen to people that can't separate the two far too much, and it destroys modern writing.
Are no longer part of my horde!
I think
Face.
the worst bit about all of this is it feels like they don't even recognize the problem. Because when they do try to do awesome and cool things, it comes off as so lame that it almost feels like a slap in the face to compare it to what came before. Some of these cutscenes are just so bad, man. From bizarre lip syncs that look like a bad machinima from the late 2000s
For Aerosol!
Oh, it's actually real. Yikes. Bro,
Well, the
what?
cool things that they're going for just aren't cool. World of Warcraft has always been driven by the characters. Arthas, Illidan, Thrall, Varian, Saurfang, so many others. They were cool, and they were on screen. Everything gravitated towards them. Nowadays, we have Illyria, and yeah, she's from Warcraft 2, sure. But half the time nowadays, she acts so blindingly stupid and inept, it's hard to take her seriously. Zalataf, who is more known for her feet pics than for being an actually threatening and cool villain, despite
So
the fact
true.
they've been trying to get her to feel like that, like when she destroyed Dalaran. In
Yeah, because that's the community Blizzard cultivated. A bunch of degenerates. Like, that's literally just the answer. Before I actually purchased Midnight, I literally went to Reddit to see what people were talking about. I thought, hey, they must be talking about the expansion, brother. No. Everyone posted feet pics. I'm not even joking with y'all. It was so disgusting because that's the community the Blizzard want to have inside of their games. And that's why they created this weird reptilian race with Dragonblight, because it apparently appeals to something called... Oh, damn, I actually forgot the name. Okay, maybe it's a good thing I forgot the name. There's a name for it, okay? It's cringe. But they made it specifically for that, and it's disgusting.
Midnight, we have Erator, who's just that whiny, coming-of-age, annoying, California-written safe boy devoid of any masculine features.
Of course.
Devoid of coolness, where we have to spend an entire chunk of time dragging him across the Eastern Kingdoms during the middle of the Void invasion of Azeroth so he can find himself because he questions all the cool stuff we fell in love with, but now because it's modern in writing, that stuff has to be problematic, because of course it does. And he has to find out what it means to be a paladin of tomorrow, a paladin for the future. The writing is exhausting. It's whiny, it's pretentious, it spits in the face of all that came before and tries to indirectly argue that this writing is good because it paints the stuff you cared about before as problematic and bad. Let's dig further into this. During the Eretor chapter in Midnight, you arrive in the Burning Steppes at the foot of Black Rock Mountain, where you learn that Terralion, Eretor's father, in his moment of triumphant glory, where he watched his king be struck down by the Orcish horde, picks up a broken sword and with the power of the holy light coursing through him, demonstrates one of the coolest and most awesome displays of a come-from-behind victory the Alliance has ever seen. Oh, that scene, where a really cool guy does a really cool thing. Yeah, so it's actually this new thing we came up with a few weeks back. You see, we call it light blindness, where the devout faith in the light basically mind controls them.
Wretched Amani! By the light, I will see these monsters purged!
What?
Monsters deserve nothing more than swift retribution. For Silvermoon, for the Sindurai. Terrellion's eyes blaze with light. For Illyria, this will be finished.
And it wasn't actually the really cool and awesome come-from-behind story of heroism that you remember it being. Oh no, it's actually problematic and foreshadowing of bad things to come for Terralion, who, by the way, through light blindness, ran his blade through Eretor previously in Midnight. If only he finished the frickin' job. For the love of competence. Why do we do this so often, Blizzard? Why are you guys simply incapable of writing a compelling dude anymore?
Because they are a bunch of wine moms and labubu millennials. Dude, I answer that. Like, why do you need... Again, they have no real-life experience. You cannot expect from someone who lived their entire life in a sheltered community to know anything about the real world or what makes it so great or what makes it so bad, right? That's how you create a great story. You can never have someone that works at Blizzard nowadays write a story that's on par with, like, Tolkien, right? Because this man was literally been through wars, and that's why he's seen the worst of humanity, and he seems the best. So now he could have wrote the best story ever, like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, obviously, right, in case you haven't heard about Tolkien. I don't know if you were living under a rock, but Blizzard employee would never be able to write anything close to that because they don't have the experience. You need to actually know what you're talking about. You need to see other people and their lives to understand. But since Blizzard employees nowadays lack this experience, they have no ground to base their story on. So what they do is virtue signal. What they think a hero should look like in, you know, like, how do I say that? Like, in their minds, basically, right? In speculation. But in reality, heroes were completely different because reality is gray. It's not black and white. It's not I'm the hero, you're the villain. No, like villains have aspiration too, right? Arthas didn't start as a villain. Well, Arthas isn't a villain, okay? Just, you know, go with me here. And same with Illidan. Illidan wasn't really a villain, even though everyone considered him to be one. He was imprisoned for 10,000 years, unjustifiably so. It would make anyone go mad. So you can't really blame it. Same thing with Gul'dan. The reason Gul'dan pretty much sold everyone to Sargeras is because he was born with a deformity, and being born with a deformity as an orc counts as weakness. So he was ostracized by orcs, and that's why he did what he did, to gain fell power. So you can understand it's not black and white, it's literally gray. And again, these type of people can't understand that concept, and that's why the story sucks balls.
Either were badasses once upon a time, but we have to turn them into a straight up villain or someone skating that line because we can't have the cool heroes anymore. They have to be shades of gray. Thrall, the war chief of the horde for the longest time.
Dude, it's crazy. I haven't rewatched this. He literally just say everything that I say. It's crazy. But yeah, now you know. That's how you know that I'm right. I mean, it is what it is. It's just so true.
One of the greatest heroes from Warcraft 3 has to now have the personality of cardboard. Get it, guys? He can't get his elements up. Oh, right, and
Yeah.
don't forget, we have to belittle
Crying
him during
baby
the Orc
Anduin.
Heritage questline to prop up Agra, because why have the face of the Orcish Horde and Orcs overall since Warcraft 3 have a bit of a spotlight here?
You are worthy indeed. But these old bones won't make it to Kalimdor. Another will have to preside over the Koshag. If I am to complete the rite, I cannot lead the... Not you, Agralan.
Me?
Your strength
Girl boss.
for itself.
Not you. Pathetic. And again, guys, I'm pretty sure it's just the humiliation ritual at this point. It's the same with Anduin. It's the same with every cool male character we had. It's just Saurfang, Varian, Tyrion that died in the start of Legion, for God's sake, in the tutorial area. Oh, man, it's disgusting. Yeah, not you, though. Surely.
Oh no! We have to belittle him to elevate his wife because he's a big, strong man, and we are modern Blizzard. We can't have that. We desperately don't want to be seen as a bunch of dude bros, and we definitely don't want to appeal to them either. Weak and pathetic. Every time Blizzard has a really cool dude, they either turn them into a villain, funnily enough, this also somewhat applies to Sylvanas, or they kill them off without allowing the lessons these guys learn in their stories to mean anything, because we have to kill them off to further someone else's story, like Vol'jin dying as an excuse to get Sylvanas on the throne of Warchief just to turn her into a villain, Saurfang dying to give Anduin another dead father to cry over instead of giving us a proper replacement to Varian Rin or even Saurfang. No, instead of those really cool dudes, you get another guy who whines all the time instead of effectively continuing the story of the characters who were
I told you.
sacrificed for his furtherance. Weak and pathetic.
Bring it to the pool.
Absolutely.
Now, I want
Raw
to address
facts.
something that I know I'm going to say, and I think it's honestly a pretty good counter-argument. The housing cinematic isn't a traditional expansion advertising cinematic. In fact, Midnight has a traditional cinematic. So why this comparison between these older, awesome trailers and cutscenes to this housing one meant to advertise a piece of side content that probably appeals more to people that actually like that style of ad? Well, it's simple. These traditional trailers just don't really hold up. To reiterate, my problem isn't the existence of trailers with this tone, though the millennial over-the-top quirky tracer rip really wears thin on me.
Yes!
Man, he sure loves this segment.
Is that
He's
we
showing it a
don't
lot.
get the cool stuff to the same level that we used to. The Midnight Intercession cinematic is okay at best. It's fine, but it's nowhere near the level of any of the trailers up to and including Battle for Azeroth. And I'm not sure if this is attributed more to incompetence and that these modern writers simply can't write something that cool like the old god used to. Then I look at the Diablo 4 trailers and I'm like, wow, those are pretty
Yeah.
good.
It was fantastic. I watched that. But again, these are two completely different teams. The team that works on Diablo is not the one working on World of Warcraft, right? I'm not mistaken about that. Maybe the people who do the cinematics are the same, but like the people who wrote them, they're not the same. As far as I'm aware of, at least. Imagine if they Disneyfied Diablo. Game would have been cooked. But to be honest, it would be too far gone. Like, no way they would do that. Not even Blizzard is dumb enough. God bless, that was brutal, though.
Will be those who believe that they alone can stand against the inevitable.
Jesus. That's sick. Holy. Look at that. There he is. Big boy. Damn, I
Or
need
they
to play
just simply
D4.
have no desire to and view this to be enough. Either way, it's disappointing. It's either a lack of ability or a lack of will. Neither are preferable. It's not like the cinematic is without merit. It's not a 0 out of 10. Lorthamar staring down Zalataf, holding the line at the Sunwell against the Void Onslaught, mocking her while raising his blade, saying, "Heh."
You can't even break one elf.
That's the best line they've come up with in years. And yeah, it's good, but we need more than just that. And it doesn't help that immediately after that, he gets little broed by Zalataf, who barely even has to lift a finger. Yeah, it works to elevate Zalataf as a threat somewhat, but it's done at the detriment of an established male character to elevate a female character.
Of course, because that's all these people do. They belittle other people and they make them feel smaller, so they elevate themselves. It's cringe. They cannot do this on their own, so they always have to mock the other guys, ostracize them, and bully them into submission. And that's exactly what they're doing with the story. That's why the VP Wine Mom, who's responsible for World of Warcraft, is so afraid to even say Warcraft. She thinks it's too intimidating. She said it herself.
And in this instance, it does make a bit of sense to establish her as a legitimate threat, but it's just another example of Blizzard writing their characters in this way, where to elevate female characters, they feel forced to put down beloved male characters. And I'm all for WoW having more interesting female characters, but trying to legitimize these characters continually at the expense of the dudes isn't good writing. It's a crutch, and it's lazy. And when it's done over and over and over again, it's repetitive and just detrimental to the overall lore. Guys generally like having great and cool dudes to root for. WoW just doesn't really have that anymore, and they keep trying to have some wimp repeatedly be the face, whether it's Anduin or Eretor, without ever having them do something that reeks of testosterone and adrenaline and satisfyingly pays off that buildup and rewards the player for sticking around. They just pigeonhole them into hyper-repetitive, emotionally charged stories. In The War Within, Anduin has one scene where he sacrifices himself to fight off a few spiders. Okay, sure, it's okay. Doesn't really show us much. And then at the end, he heals up Khadgar, who was absorbed into the Dark Heart by Zalataf at the beginning of The War Within when she destroyed Dalaran.
He should have conjured his wheelchair instead. That would have been cool. Like, that would have saved everything. No, he couldn't conjure some really cool mechanism to help lift himself up. No, he conjured a goddamn wheelchair.
Another established dude character, by the way, being sacrificed to trying to elevate a female character. And does Khadgar do anything cool before or after? No, not really. He just gets smurfed by Zalataf at the start, and then they slap him in a wheelchair after Anduin saves him, because I guess they wanted someone to represent people who are in wheelchairs, which just feels forced, because this is arguably one of the greatest mages of all time, let alone alive, and instead of any of the other magical devices that could be utilized to give him a really cool in-universe method of travel, like water elementals, floating carpets, floating elemental discs, or just straight up levitation. No, have someone conjure up a magic wheelchair.
Bro, literally conjure anything but a wheelchair. It would have been 10 times cooler. I don't know what they were doing. Well, I do know what they were doing. It's just I'm so mad at it. And it's so crazy. What he's saying is so true. They're always trying to have other people exert their power over other characters' expense. I hate that. I hate the fact that we have to lose one character we love to elevate another. I never understood that, because you're not really losing one character in the process, you're losing two. The guy you're trying to, or the female in that case, you're trying to elevate isn't being made into a good character because you just made her just bomb a really powerful male character. It doesn't make her great. It doesn't work like that.
Again, it's lame. You're just simply trying to make the dude characters that are known and somewhat beloved less cool. It's almost like they expect these characters, Illyria, Zalataf, the dragons in Dragonflight, to be instantly liked by the audience in their modern interpretation, and that you're supposed to care about them immediately because, look, they have a new model. Look, they are the new villain, etc. This style of writing operates on the principle that these new characters are deserving of your respect and adoration instead of the old characters where they work to earn your love and enthrallment. Talking about characters like Eretor and Anduin, or the NPC in the Night Elf Heritage Armor Quest, or Thrall's Kid that's just a fanboy in the Orc Heritage Armor Quest, or whatever the hell this is supposed to be. Seriously,
What?
he's the
Yikes.
next king of the dwarves? This is exactly
What?
what I'm talking about. Blizzard are so obsessed with having
Bro, who is this Harry Potter looking ass? I never even heard of him. To be honest, I haven't kept myself updated with the story for quite some time, but man, what the hell is that? Why every single male character just looks so weak and pathetic?
overly emotional, weak, and pathetic dudes be at
What?
the forefront of this
Bro, we'll link somehow. It's crazy. It's literally crazy. He repeats me. People gonna think I pre-watched this.
franchise while refusing to
It's
allow the
insane.
cool dudes to simply be cool, that it feels like a concerted effort at trying to make the dudes as boring and uninteresting as possible. That, and I don't know which is worse here. They actually think these characters are likable, main character worthy, and memorable, and they simply try to elicit the feeling of, oh, look at that precious boy, instead of there goes that man. It's not even like Dagran's a bad character. He just looks lame and is just not memorable. He's bland and uninteresting. And the funny thing about all of this is a weak and pathetic dude can be an interesting character. Let's take a look at one right now and see why Alan from Xenosaga works so well, whereas WoW's assorted millennial burger co-owners don't. Xenosaga, besides being one of the best RPG series of all time, has a main character. Her name is Shion Uzuki. She's not who I want to talk about. Who I want
haven't
to
heard of
talk
this.
about is the simp that follows her around for most of the series. Alan.
Oh.
He's the type of guy to argue that lettuce has too many calories. He's weak and largely pathetic, constantly being bossed around by Shion, and not just because she's his direct superior. He's just a weak guy.
What are you doing, Chief? Please, don't do anything crazy.
Be quiet, Alan.
But he's a weak guy who has a thing for Shion, and despite knowing that he's a coward and that he's weak, he elects to stay by her side throughout the trilogy, despite facing off against giant church fleets, hordes of extra-dimensional creatures, planets transforming into giant
Damn.
beasts and mechs, and a whole
the
host
hell?
of assorted other threats. He gets scared, nervous,
I thought you were a man. Quit whining and shoot something.
but he stays because he loves Shion. And also, he's helping to make sure the bad guys don't win in the end. And over the course of the games, he gets progressively more confident in himself.
We're kind of surrounded.
Yeah, I see them. Hang on tight, Chief.
Wait, Alan.
He's just blazing.
All right. That ought to hold him for a while.
Not bad.
Is
Alan,
this game
I'm
good?
impressed.
I never really heard of it.
Well, it's all
I gotta
part of
admit.
being a man. And the power of love.
Oh, you botched it, bro.
Did you say something?
Nothing.
Most of the time, it's very small changes, here and there, but there's progress made. But he's also never a spotlight character. He's just always kind of there, as the main characters really do everything and are cool. Then in the third game, Shion is in trouble. She gets captured. So what does Alan do? For the first time in the series, he picks up a crossbow and becomes a playable party member in order to save Shion. Dude grows a pair. He doesn't do much damage, but he at least tries, and that effort is valuable. He knows he's not that strong, he's not that brave, but he will try for her.
Now, let's go.
What? Me too?
You're worried about Shion, aren't you? She needs someone to support her. Please lend us your help.
All right. I'll accompany you.
He's the one at the end of the game able to reason with Shion in a darkest moment of self-doubt and indecisiveness.
How can you say that?
Alan.
You try to make it sound good, but in the end, all you were doing was using her. I've had enough. I didn't come here to do something meaningless like this. We're all fighting to protect the universe so we could all survive, right? Everyone here is resolved to face this fight. No one can laugh at
Wow.
that resolve.
You have no
He had his
power.
moment.
You can't even win the heart of the one single woman you love. What resolve
Damn.
does a man like you have?
That's right. I'm a weak human being. And to you, I'm only an insignificant, powerless creature. But I'll never leave the chief and run. I will stand firm on this spot and save her, no matter what.
Very well.
Amazing. Truly incredible. He got zapped at the end. Bro, he's gonna show the entire gameplay.
Aren't you going to stand firm?
What? Okay, I think I got the point. Let's fast forward a bit. Man, he's literally showing the entire gameplay. Are you actually kidding me?
Fulfilling his arc.
Okay, yeah, let's skip that part.
Emotionally
Okay, there we go.
payoff, plain and simple. For WoW, they either always emotionally reset Anduin, or just shovel out the same soulless children, either literally or emotionally, and never give them satisfying payoff. Anduin's in the War Within is probably their best example. And even then, they use the wrong characters to tell these types of stories, or do so in the worst ways or at the worst times. Anduin's big payoff in the War Within was healing Khadgar. He's a healer, sure, but he's also supposed to be the face of the Alliance and the freaking king, by the way, and we're supposed to feel sympathetic to him for just running off and abandoning the Alliance all this time. Or with Eretor going through his puberty arc right in the middle of the Midnight Campaign. Look at the Sunwell, dude. Why are we talking about what it means to be a paladin with some cows over in Arathi repairing a freaking fence?
Oh, it's funny, man. I'm currently through the process of leveling in Dragonflight because I'm trying the new player experience. Oh, man. It is such a hassle. It's so disgusting. You do this exact same crap over and over again. You're literally being their gardener. Every 2 quests, like literally every other quest, you are either tending eggs, helping whelps, or literally taking selfies. That's it. These are the type of quests you have all throughout Dragonflight, and I kid you not, if you do not believe me, play through it yourself or watch someone else play it, because I refuse to even upload that. I just blaze through the story so I can reach midnight, and that's it.
Can you take your characters and your world somewhat seriously here? Alan was a story of a weak and pathetic boy becoming a man. Becoming a man was the payoff. These WoW boys are just weak and pathetic, where the takeaway is that all of these characteristics about being a man are actually toxic and don't need to be achieved. Most guys are tired of this uninspired, repetitive California millennial characterization. It's not endearing, it's not charming, it's weird, off-putting, and cringeworthy. It lacks aura. It lacks that cool factor, because you aren't trying to target male audiences anymore because you assume that you already have that market, and now try to target less masculine demographics and preferences while leaving the male audiences that you have cultivated to rot. And when they speak up about this, you act higher and mightier. You try and shame them, or you simply ignore them. And then you act surprised when every time you put out something like this, people push back against it. No one cares that it's a housing cinematic, and that's the truth. Yes, it is a housing cinematic. Yes, it's meant to target a specific cozy audience. We don't care. You are so hyper-fixated on trying to change established tones and aesthetics to suit your glorified fanfic that you don't care about spitting on the legacy that made people fall in love with your characters and your world to begin with.
Exactly, and also, like I previously mentioned, you could have made that trailer cool. You didn't automatically need to Disneyfy it because it's for a housing feature. You could have made it cool. And also, the first part of the trailer was actually dope. When she fought those, like, 3 void creatures. Like, that was fire, man. I enjoyed that. So, they could have continued that instead of, like, breaking into a TikTok dance session. They could have made it cooler.
Where were we again?
They chose not to.
Yeah, the Midnight Cinematic. Well, it gets to something somewhat interesting at the end, as the Army of the Light is summoned by Iliadrin at the Sunwell. But right as the big cool battle of the Light versus Void kicks off, the freaking trailer ends. Like,
they ran out of budget.
It's supposed to represent that the story itself picks up right as the cinematic ends, and that you actually play the battle. That's cool conceptually, but again, can we see cool things being done by cool people in these trailers? It's an okay trailer, probably the best one they put out in years, and that's not a good thing, but it just doesn't have the same cool factor at all compared to the older ones. Let's take a step back. and go back to the first cinematic for The War Within and the World Soul Saga, starring Thrall and Anduin in Silithus, overlooking what is revealed at the end to be Sargeras' sword in Azeroth. That has still not been addressed, by the way. Honestly, it's really good. Yeah, I get it. You probably didn't expect me to say something like that with the way the rest of this video is gone, but this is genuinely a pretty good cinematic for the characters of Thrall and Anduin that is beautifully animated, expressed, and paced. It's a pretty dang good cinematic that really feels like it's trying to signal to a WoW player base that at the time was tired of the Shadowlands and Dragonflight story direction and game state, that things are going to be better. So
yeah, we were all crying after Shadowlands. I do agree with that.
what's the problem? Yeah, it tells a decent, emotionally charged story. But it isn't cool! Anduin has another cry fest while Thrall has to have a Discord call with him at midnight to work through some stuff, mainly the trauma Anduin had from playing Shadowlands, which might be the most relatable thing Blizzard has ever written, to be honest. But this isn't the tone Warcraft is known for.
No, I don't think that's true, actually. I think people were mad that this was a trailer. I think if this wasn't like an expansion trailer, people would have loved that. I certainly would have, because it makes sense. Sometimes even the manliest character do break. And when you see it and when you do it appropriately, it's good. Like, it can be a moment of respite. Like, you can break down. Yeah, like, that's completely fine. But you need to do it at the right moment. You can't just throw it around liberally. When Anduin cries one time, it's fine. It's understandable. It's relatable. When he does it 10 times in a row, that's cringe. Okay, that's the point here.
Stuff like this is fine. It's fine to have stuff like this, and I like that we can have stuff like this. It's not fine when we don't get the thing people fell in love with to begin with. This is the start of the World Soul Saga, a 3-expansion storyline that WoW has never really done before. Get me excited for that. All this trailer did was put Anduin back in the spotlight yet again, where we're going to get another story of insert wimpy guy trying to find himself again, when we already did that with Anduin back in Legion with the death of his father Varian, who went out like this, by the way.
Yeah, nobody talks about that. I mean, I still don't fully agree with the way he went down. I don't think it was worthy. I don't think it was that great. I gotta be honest with y'all. It could have been better.
For the Alliance.
Suck him dry. Man, Gul'dan is kind of base. Now that I pay attention to it. I really wish I did the Nighthold raid. I haven't gotten that far.
How many times do we have to have the face of this new story be some wimpy dude trying to discover himself? We've had that story. It sucked then, but it sucks even more the 4th time. Funnily enough, this wasn't the only cinematic The War Within got. It's just the other one was so forgettable, I doubt even most people out there even remember it existed. And it...
No, I remember people laughing at that. I remember that.
Largely amounted to the main Harnier character dancing and Zalataf just staring into the camera because that's aura, I guess. When they even try to do something cool and exciting, it just stumbles and fails. Weak and pathetic.
Oh god, not this.
Dragonflight. Freaking Dragonflight, man. Do we even have to talk about this steaming dump of a story? Bro,
no.
Look at how they wrapped it up.
Our spectral powers have returned?
This is not the Titan's magic.
This is of our world.
You are not prepared.
They even speak like morons.
I thought to survive.
Why they talk
we
so
need to
slow?
reclaim our aspectral powers. But they were
And why a
never
Tauren is there?
ours to take.
Kick him out of the group.
It was about coming together as a
Who invited a cow? Come on.
When the Titans granted us power, it divided dragonkind. But
Okay, just gonna show the entire cinematic.
An element is Disney, Marvel, wannabe moments, and then friendship and family is magic, with character designs and personalities targeting people I imagine on elementary school with the writing chops of someone fresh off writing PBS Kids fanfic. You want to know why I now play WoW? You want to know why, despite everything that I've talked about in this video and that I've moaned about, in this video, I will still proudly say that I love World of Warcraft?
Because you're an addict and you can't play anything else. And if you'll try to say anything different, I know you're capping. I know it.
It's because everything we talked about is at least an improvement from this crap. If WoW was still just like this, I would never have returned.
Yes, you would have. Do not lie, brother. I know you're an addict. No single MMO out there can scratch the World of Warcraft itch. And that's why we keep on playing. So don't lie to yourself, brother. Just embrace the truth.
Never have fallen in love with the game and world again. The War Within and Midnight aren't WoW at its best, tone-wise, but at least Blizzard have shown a concerted effort to be better than Shadowlands and this Disney-grade slop.
Okay, but to be fair, to be better than Shadowlands isn't that much of a high bar to begin with.
On good, don't get me wrong, but there can be somewhat passable moments now, and the potential is there, where even this trailer is an improvement to this. I criticize because I care. I stopped caring during Shadowlands and Dragonflight, and you got me back with the World Soul Saga and the War Within. Dwarves, Arathi, Spider People, I'm back in the door. There's a lot of work left to do though. The dudes in the story suck, and the women characters aren't compelling enough, but they are still leaps and bounds better than the dudes. Where's the adrenaline? Where's the cool? This is one of the greatest final hurdles Blizzard needs to and should clear. Don't lean away from the guys. Embrace that masculine gaze. And that doesn't just mean a bunch of hot women in skimpy attire. No, let guys be able to look at idealized heroes doing cool heroic things and juxtapose them with cool and threatening villains doing evil things, but things that look awesome and compelling. Eridicron is actually an okay example of this. Not the best. Certainly not the best, but there's potential there to be expanded on when he returns to the story. Stop trying to make every awesome guy character morally gray, or that we should actually feel bad about these dudes feeling remotely masculine. It doesn't mean they can't have emotionally charged stories, but you have to balance them and do them right and make them compelling, because simply talking about emotions and simply having emotions on the screen to be a part of the story doesn't mean the audience is going to have an emotional reaction to that.
But the people who wrote the story are so emotionally unstable, they're incapable of perceiving a normal human behavior. And that's why every single character in World of Warcraft nowadays acts so erratic. You can see it with Sylvanas throwing tantrum at every single turn possible. You can see it with like Anduin crying all the time, and Thrall doesn't, make even any sense whatsoever. It's because those people can't regulate their emotions, and they specifically implement their own feelings on the characters, and they express themselves through that. The problem is, the moment you express yourself through a character, it's becoming really much of a problem when you're being an insufferable tool in real life. So yeah, now we have to experience that in-game, unfortunately.
Have there be cheesy one-liners. That's fine, that's good even. Not just a bunch of references to older moments that were actually good. Let a character like Turalian be maybe disliked by the Horde, but still respected as a noble paladin of the light. And also, this badass, idealized hero of the Alliance. He doesn't need to be a perfect individual, but don't just let his story be that he becomes a fanatical zealot of the light. Enough with these goofy councils meant to try and seem politically sound and correct by modern Twitter and Reddit standards. Let the Horde have a badass face again. I miss the vibe Garrosh had back in Cataclysm. Even if Stone Talon Mountain's depiction of Garrosh wasn't the overall intended direction, I want a war chief like that again, man. Someone who truly represents the story of the Horde. Someone that is aggressive and can be brutal, and someone guided by honor and trying to take to heart the lessons from his many campaigns and from his wizened fellow older warriors to heart. That's who should be the leader of the Horde, not this limp council of assorted rejects and nobodies. I don't think the Horde has a character like this now, because Blizzard over the years kept killing them all off, turning Garrosh into Orc Hitler, killing Vol'jin to further Sylvanas' story, and get her on the throne, then turning her into a villain. We need fresh blood. We need new characters for both the Alliance, but especially the Horde. We need badass dudes again, and not just inserting a female character into a vacancy that was once held by a badass dude. It gets tiring when the series, known for its adrenaline awesomeness and cool factor, actively avoids
Damn, they
that
really put
nowadays.
Asmongold in the trailer.
It's weak and pathetic. So as I'm making the video, right, Blizzard drop a new animation for Zalataf entitled Supremacy, and it's basically her recruiting Salad Fingers over here to be a part of her group. And we get a sneak little peek of supposedly Zalataf as a kid with her world essentially in ruins. I think it's a good animation. As I said in a video where I reacted and broke down this animation in full, it's not up to like Lords of War quality for me, but I think compared to a lot of what we've gotten, this is far more in the direction of what I like to see, especially for World of Warcraft animations. Like this scene in particular is rather brutal, like losing her eyes and just becoming ash and just a husk of her former self. I think it's well animated, well paced, and just well executed overall. I do think it is a good animation. It doesn't really rectify any of the issues we've talked about in this video today. Yeah, it's kind of cool they brought back Saladar from just a TBC quest into an actual, well, pretty much character now, and I think this does do a decent job of making me want to care about Zalataf more than they have before, but it doesn't rectify any of those larger issues that we talked about before when it concerns the guy characters in World of Warcraft. But I thought it was important to talk about this briefly here, because this is one of the best tone-setting animations I've seen them put out in quite a while. I personally would love to see more animations in future trailers for World of Warcraft have the same tone and atmosphere and level of unashamed brutality that this animation had. I would love to see that.
You saved them.
Here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on this whole subject matter. What do you want to see from the future for World of Warcraft?
Okay, seemed to be the end of the video. Great video though. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. You guys can watch it for yourself. Give this man a like. Oh my god, it was a long one. It's so late at night when I started watching it right now. Oh man, like I'm toast. But yeah, it was a great video and he was absolutely right. It was so funny to see that the moment I said something, a few seconds later, he said the exact same thing. But it just goes to show, guys, we want the game to become manly again. And it's not to the detriment of its female player base or, you know, younger audience. Like, no, younger audience and females always loved World of Warcraft regardless. So what are we even talking about here? It's just such a weird claim, and I hate it when people try to defend Blizzard using this argument, because it's always so dishonest. Like, always. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, Blizzard isn't going to listen. They literally do not care, because they won't ever see anything past their quarterly earning update, and they don't care about anything other than a graph goes up like this. So yeah, they only care about short-term quick profit, not about longevity, because the next CEO is going to quit and he's going to take his severance pay, and that's it. That's all they care about.